Hello, this is David with Stupid Things People Do and what we can learn from them. In the wake of several natural disasters from 2023 to 2025, we've been examining insurance needs, specifically how popcorn-fueled warehouse fires are causing the market to harden, and if that doesn't make sense to you, you should probably check out our previous videos. The short of the long of it is that market shocks affect the price of materials and services. So if you and every other resident of insurance land suddenly lose all your popcorn in a carnival-themed warehouse fire, supply and demand will skyrocket the replacement costs. Sometimes a replacement won't even be possible. So what does that mean for insurance providers in real life? External factors like massive warehouse fires 3 cities over affect insurance rates at home, and those supply and demand factors yank around the cost of materials and services, just like in our examples. Also, if fires have become more frequent, that's going to affect risks too, and so that also has an impact on costs. And speaking of risks, it's not just the tangible destruction of property or materials we need to worry about. If there is an epidemic of say, misconduct in the Catholic Church in the 90s, that's going to affect liability insurance rates. Fortunately, it's a good thing nothing like that has ever happened in the Protestant Church. Well, never mind then. It looks like the issues of hardening markets and liability are absolutely going to be affecting Protestant churches, ministries, and nonprofits. Businesses, too. So, what do we need to do about it? I mean, that's the stated thesis of this video, right? Let's think about this practically. If we're insuring a literal warehouse, certain things are going to have to be in place. You're going to have to follow fire code. You're going to have a certain amount of extinguishers. You'll need to train people in occupational safety and health awareness. And you'll have to enforce all of these measures. So for other types of liability, it's the same thing. Just like you wouldn't want people throwing kerosene around the warehouse, you don't want people engaging in metaphysical kerosene throwing with boundary violations or dubious behavior at work. And just like you'd have an emergency plan in place for if someone does see a fire at a warehouse, you would want to have a way for people to report and respond if they do see misconduct at work. Also, warehouses have access concerns, making sure people can't be trapped in a dangerous situation. Likewise, all workplaces have a similar concern, making sure dangerous people do not get access to potential victims. That's kind of the whole point of background checks, and it becomes critically important for organizations which serve vulnerable people, such as children, the disabled, the elderly. In terms of which policies you're going to need to have in place for which situations, I'm not going to have time to go into that in a 5-minute video. Fortunately, we do have resources in the form of a self-assessment audit that you can get started on, and Talios Law and many other law firms specialize in designing policies that are effective at protecting your organization. Now, you may at this point be asking, David, where are the jokes I've come to expect from you? And I mean, that is why this is a video series. 2 videos with jokes and 1 video where we talk about solutions. And I'm really not here to mock solutions, just stupidity. Speaking of stupidity, having all of these policies in place kind of shows the insurance companies that what you're doing is the opposite of stupid. And that can help you qualify for insurance by showing them that you're taking steps to reduce your risk. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, a neighbor or even people cities or states over negligently allowing warehouse fires is going to affect your warehouse insurance, by which I mean failing to confront abuse affects your liability insurance. That brings us to another less popular jot on this list. We need to get real comfortable confronting people who aren't doing things right. All leaders need to get comfortable confronting people who aren't doing it right. The reality is that as a community, we're not a bunch of little boats floating around on our own little fishing trips. I used the analogy before, we're in a flotilla. If one boat catches fire or explodes or starts smashing into people, that's going to affect the entire flotilla. If one organization is acting negligently, in the long run, that's going to harden the market for everybody. Unfortunately, until an attitude of accountability has permeated the culture, the harsh reality is that even with the best of preparation, the hardening market may require increasing your budget to pay for higher premiums or even setting aside money and or credit lines for higher deductibles. That means we're going to need to get real specific. So, for example, sexual abuse insurance is non-negotiable if you work with children. If you can't afford that insurance, then you can't afford to work with children. Similarly, with training, if you can't afford to train on abuse prevention, you can't afford to serve vulnerable people, especially children. Conversely, if you're not posting or publishing things online, then you might not need as much in the way of media coverage insurance. Certain things are higher risk than other things. So, for example, a camp that provides horseback riding is going to have very different general liability and umbrella policy needs than a camp that builds Lego robots. By understanding and sticking to a defined scope, you can limit your surface area for liability. That means you need to avoid high risk and high liability activities if there isn't adequate safety, training, and insurance available in your budget. And now you probably noticed that I'm either focusing on or speaking to issues that generally speaking affect churches, ministries, and other nonprofits. And that's because while these principles are generally true for most organizations, there is a crisis in the ministry world. Many religious organizations have simply done an inadequate job preventing, responding to, and ensuring around harassment, discrimination, and abuse within the church. And complicating this is the fact that many insurance companies won't actually cover or defend issues related to religious practices at all. That's going to require special vendors like Brotherhood Mutual who provide specific coverages in those areas. What this goes to say is that policies, effective training, proper response mechanisms, these are absolutely critical to prevent misconduct and to reduce liability. They have a direct impact on the immediate cost of insurance. And when there's been systemic failures, the lack of these pillars has a direct impact on the hardening of the market. Limiting non-essential operations to reduce costs and setting aside money and credit lines to deal with higher premiums and deductibles, that can help ameliorate the short-term financial strains caused by this hardened market. But it's going to take a culture of accountability where everyone takes the risks seriously and no longer tolerates negligence on the part of their neighbors to actually reverse the damage that has been done by these fires. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time for hopefully a lighter episode. I don't know, probably on like workplace Stalinism or something.